We have joining us a Rise business analyst, Bode Ososami, and the CEO of CFG Advisory, Mr. Tilewa Adebajo, to discuss this $3.4 billion loan that has been approved by the IMF. Tilewa, let me start with you. So we have 1% interest rate here, a 5-year payback period. Is that, considering our debt profile and size of our debt, as favorable as you can get for a loan, for loan terms?
Yeah, it is a fantastic deal, and that's why we've gone there. It's a concessionary finance based upon our special drawing rights with the IMF. And I think this is just the beginning of financing a $15 billion deficit that the government has to finance this year. So yes, $3.4 billion, 5 years, 1%, a very good deal.
Okay, we still have a $2.5 billion request from the World Bank. We've got a $1 billion request from the AFDB. And considering that this has now been, this 3.4 has been approved by the IMF, should we be optimistic in expecting that those will now follow?
Definitely. I don't think there's a problem in getting to the first $7 billion. We have $7 billion already in the bag. I think we can take that to the bank. We got an approval this today from the Senate of $850 billion, which comes to about $2 billion. So right there and then we're at $9 billion. And let's not also understand that the central bank has given directly monetary financing to the government to the tune of about $5 billion. So if you add up all these borrowings, with the current debt profile at $85 billion, I think quite easily in the next 3 months, we're going to reach $100 billion in terms of our total debt profile. And I think that is really where we need to now begin to have some sort of source of concern. But I think all those loans will go through quite easily. And I think the Senate has also approved the internal borrowing of $850 billion. And that takes our debt profile to the $100 billion US mark.
That is considerably, it's heavy. Where would your concerns begin? Would it be in paying it back? The generations down the line that will have to be saddled with this debt? Or where do your concerns begin with that large sum that you've just given out there?
Well, my fear right now is the fact that some of these monies we're borrowing, especially the one coming from the central bank, is going to be used to pay interest on existing loans, which is where you really see the problems. But my concern right now is the fact that with this debt profile, 1% is very favorable, so they're concessionary notes, so the interests are not going to be that significant. But we're already using close to 60% of our revenues to service debt, and those revenues have gone down significantly. So what is important now is that we need to survive the next 1 year, and we need to use this money judiciously in such a way that will create the stimulus to rekindle economic growth in Nigeria. So, and what does that involve? It not only involves just borrowing the money. It is now time for us to put in place the policies and the structural reforms that we need to do in our economy. As we know, monetary policy is no longer effective in Nigeria. For the last 2.5 years, the central bank the Monetary Policy Committee has not adjusted or altered its rates. We now need a combination of what the Ministry of Finance is doing, the Economic Recovery Growth Plan. We need to relook at it, and we need to reposition the Economic Recovery Growth Plan to reflect the realities on ground at the moment. If you take a look at the Economic Recovery Growth Plan, it says this economy is going to grow 7% this year. We know this is not going to happen. So it's important that we press the reset button, and this money that we have, there's coordination amongst the Ministry of Trade and Investment, Ministry of Finance, and the Central Bank. Those three ministries need to come together, and we need to see direction from presidency on a clear economic direction. If we have that, we'll be able to forestall a lot of things and be able to survive this whole thing. Because not only are we dealing with economic shock, we also have a health pandemic on our hands.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So you said quite a lot there. So let me start with the rates, MPC. So there's a dynamic, though, and I just want to present this to you with regards to perhaps why the CBN hasn't really moved its rates. If you cut rates and bring rates down, then you induce liquidity, which possibly will chase after foreign exchange and cause some lead to a ripple effect there. If you are dovish. if you raise rates, then you possibly constrict aggregate demand, and then that leads to tightening, of course, which can now have its own negative effects. So is it possible to understand the dilemma that the MPC is in with regards to not moving rates, as you've mentioned?
Well, you should have been doing that 2 years ago, not today. If you see what we were saying, when we're trying to come out of that recession, they kept holding rates. And if you do that, look, when Nigeria was growing at 8.5%, the rate of inflation was at 11%. I do not subscribe to the fact that by lowering rates, you're going to improve liquidity and the liquidity will change foreign exchange. We already know what the demand for foreign exchange is every year. We have an additional $25 to $30 billion of foreign exchange coming in every year from the diaspora. Like I said in the last presentation to you, the static exchange rate mechanism is what kills our currency. If you have a market-driven, single-window foreign exchange system backed up with the futures over-the-counter foreign exchange market, the futures over-the-counter foreign exchange market will reduce that speculation of people coming in to buy foreign exchange. It's like the fuel stations. When we have the belief that there's no fuel, all of us will run to the fuel station and we'll see queues there. But when we know that there's fuel and we have the perception that there are a lot of fuel in the system, then everybody takes their time to go to the petrol station. It's the same thing with the foreign exchange market. So, but right now, that is a bit too late because we are now facing a different dynamic. And you tell me, which central bank in the world has its MPC rates at close to 14%? Everybody is cutting rates to near zero to stimulate the economy and provide liquidity so that the economy does not, collapse. So the dilemma that the MPC is going to face is that by the end of the year, we're going to be in the middle of a recession and inflation might be going to close to 20% and they might be forced to raise rates.
Understood. Thank you for that. Okay, so with regards to the futures market and adding some depth to, as far as the foreign exchange is concerned, there are concerns, though, that speculators could possibly drive up rates, that speculators could possibly have a negative impact. I mean, you see them more positively. Can you speak to that as far as concerns about what speculators could mean, for the country?
Who are the speculators? You asked me who is the speculator? The speculators are the people that used to get money at 305 official rates and come to the market to sell it at 360. How many people have access to foreign exchange at 305? Give me a dynamic foreign exchange market with a single window. All those people selling foreign exchange on the streets, what business do they have selling foreign exchange? Push the foreign exchange sales system into a single window, market-driven mechanism, back it up with a futures market. The futures market will take care of the speculation. Speculators only come into the market when there are arbitrage opportunities. If I can get foreign exchange at 304 and sell it at 380, or get it at 400 and sell it in another market at 420, that is when you bring in speculators. If you remove the arbitrage opportunities from a foreign exchange trading market or any markets, then you will kill the speculators. There will be no need for that. And if you have a futures market, those investors and those people who require foreign exchange delivered to them in 6 months' time can go and execute a contract. So for me, this is not rocket science. It's tried and tested models. So I don't believe in speculators. Speculation will come when you have multiple windows. Kill all those windows, and then everything will come through.
Thank you so much for that. We're speaking, of course, with the CEO of CFG Advisory, Mr. Tilewa Adebajo. Bode Ososami, our Rise business analyst in London. Bode, I want to bring you in here for a moment. Well, of course, we're just talking to Mr. Adebajo about how to, disburse put those funds that we've gotten from the IMF to good use. Mr. Adebajo was talking about, proper reforms, talking about foreign exchange reforms and so on and so forth. So, Bode, I want to bring you in. Should we be celebrating this loan that we've received, from the IMF? What's your take with regards to these funds that we've received now?
Well, I'm not as optimistic as Tilewa is, although I do agree entirely concerning the foreign exchange window. We need to unify it. And even the IMF said as much in their press release, even as they gave this $3.4 billion. What we are doing is like, I always tell you, giving a pillow to a cancerous patient. It makes us more comfortable, yes, or changing the bed sheet, yes, it makes the patient more comfortable. But there are a lot of structural issues here. Even if we get $10 billion, we need at least 30 billion for that's just 10, that will be about 10% of our GDP to address the kind of fiscal gap that we're going to need with the stimulus that is required. So the balance of payments, the oil issues, yes, but we also know that this is not a banking crisis. This is a health crisis with all kinds of complex ramifications. And like Professor Soludo said, we can't borrow ourselves out of this mess. So yes, the money is good. I mean, we should have the money, and I do pray we spend it properly. They've said that we should appoint an independent auditor to ensure that this money is properly spent. I would expect that will be immediately confirmed that we will do that. But even if we spend the money properly, I'm not sure it's going to take us very, very far, even with the fiscal stimulus. Although many say Nigerians are very resilient, we don't complain, we're used to not having payroll protection, we don't have social protection, and we live every day and we are happy. Good for now, but I think this is getting to a stage where Nigerians are going to start asking a lot of questions. So I am more keen to see a dialogue towards a fresh rethink of our operating models, of our economic models, and this idea of borrowing. We're going to pay the money back, and if you calculate the implications in an economy where the oil revenues are down, tax revenues are going to be down as well, obviously, because the economy is down. The weight on being able to pay this additional borrowings is just going to be very much of a bearing. Except, of course, we're talking of productive investments in infrastructure. Infrastructure is where you can begin to really see inputs into your productivity. But I also agree that we have to stop the fire. But there are cracks in the building that have been exposed, and it's very. I don't want to say we told you so, but this is a very messy situation, and I think the Minister of Finance needs to be briefing us regularly on what's going on, particularly with the balance of payments. Oil prices, you heard what's going on in terms of difficulties in selling our oil, even at $10. I was expecting COMD, the Crude Oil Marketing Department, to comment on that shocking revelation. So I don't know where you want me to start, Rotus, but yes, this is a nice pillow. We've changed our bed sheets, but what about the cancerous patient? How are we going to begin to get better?
Thank you for that. But I'm going to stick with you now, since you mentioned, of course, we have a health crisis, right? And, this is the here and now, what we're dealing with as far as COVID-19 is concerned. And actually, I'll throw this whole question to Mr. Adebajo in a second, to Tilewa. But Bode, as of right now, deploying these funds, I understand the issue of reforms. We understand what needs to be done long term. But in the here and now, would the best use of those funds, I'm asking now, would it not be to deploy those towards this fight against, as far as COVID-19 is concerned, the health crisis that we're facing, or growing health crisis? Yes.
I would say so, because aren't you shocked that Nigeria had just 10,000 tests when Ghana is doing 100,000, and at the time when South Africa was doing 10,000 per week? So clearly there are gaps, and I haven't looked at the critical gaps, particularly in respect to the COVID-19 in Nigeria, but clearly that is where we have to start to kill the fire. But I'm just saying that this begins to address just the beginnings of the issues, and the sustainability, being able to get over this in a way that puts us on a solid footing should also be on the mind of our policymakers.
Fantastic. Tilewa, I'll come to you in a second, but I just want to stick with you. The cancer analogy that you just gave, just to make sure that we're clear, you're saying that instead of changing the bed sheets and the pillows, you should actually focus on what needs to be administered to the cancer patient to have them recover. Yes, did I understand that analogy?
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Of course, you do need new bed sheets, new pillows, and a good meal, which is what these loans are. Will keep you going for a while. But the more structural issues, like Tilewa mentioned, the whole issue of foreign exchange policies around doing how we do business in Nigeria, ease of doing business, issues related to reform. And these have always been the same issues, the old cracks that we've had in our system, the high cost of governance that we continue to maintain that is unaffordable, and we've always said it. And most importantly, the huge gap in social protection and health. And we spent so much money on defense. Now we're all quiet about Boko Haram, and our hospitals don't have doctors. So I think it's not just although we are talking about the IMF and the IMF will help, but I really think our focus should begin to look for something a bit more sustainable than borrowing, more borrowing.
Okay, and so, but the thing is, Bode, I'm sorry, Tilewa, I will come to you, but Bode has just brought up so many interesting points. There. Well, but Bode, in terms of solutions, and as far as, I just want to make sure we're having an, apples to apples comparison here with what the country can do. It doesn't seem like there are any easy choices, right? Again, just the cancer example is perfect. You're not saying you leave the cancer patient to die, right? Just to be clear.
Why do we look for easy choices? We said we could not deregulate oil prices. We said that for years and years, and we did it very quickly when oil prices came down. Of course, we can do the things that we need to do. We just don't want to do them. And when the conditions force us, as it will, because I think we're just at the beginning of this, we will begin to unify those markets. We will begin to sell off our dinosaurs like NNPC. It's all going to happen. And if we don't build institutions, we still will have to build them because people will not accept not having social protection. All over the world, people believe they're entitled to education. They're entitled to basic, decent housing. If they have no work, they're entitled to being supported. These are now accepted as the norm in civilized societies. We haven't even started. So it's a matter of time. That's why I keep saying, and we can play around with it. We can say we can't do it. We can say it's difficult and so on. But it always becomes easy when you have no choice, and we are soon getting to that state.
All right. Thank you so much, Bode. Okay, Tilewa, I'll come to you now. So the headline, top of the page this day, today, when it was talking about the receipts of these funds, top of the page said CBN gets firepower to stabilize currency with another 3.5 billion awaited from the World Bank and the AFDB. There was breaking news. I just took the breaking news not too long ago. The CBN has announced that it's resumed sale of foreign exchange to parents wanting to pay school fees to children that they're overseas. Resumption of FX sales to BDCs. Resumption of FX sales to SMEs. This is a lot. I mean, with the need for dollars in this country, this is a welcome development. I want to ask you if this is the best use, if you would say, of the funds, just going by the scenario painted on the headline of the newspaper this morning.
Okay, thank you very much for that. First of all, let us understand what this money is for. IMF and World Bank, they don't play around with their money. If they give you money, you're going to get an auditor and you're going to account for each penny that you put and where you did it and what you did for it. So it's important that we have to have a plan as to where this money is going to go to. And I think, as Bode has said, the priority we all agree is health. We need testing kits in this country. And what is important now is that the most important priority is that we need to go and get testing kits and understand the depth of this pandemic in Nigeria. Our testing rates compared to our population side are abysmally low. That's number one. Number two, what we're going for is our requirement is $15 billion to be able to balance our budget this year. That is our budgetary requirements for this year. We're only now at $7 billion. The central bank has started giving monetary financing to the federal government, now to the tune of $5 billion. From zero last year, it has now come to $5 billion. So my own concern is all these monies will come in. We need to know what we're going to do with the money. But as far as the government's plan is concerned, we still have a shortfall of $8 billion that we need to look for to fund this deficit that we're dealing with. So, like Bode also said, and I mentioned earlier, structural reforms that we need to do. The Oronsoye report was a report that came to streamline government. I think it's important that we need to bring out this report and streamline it. Yes, the foreign exchange market has opened and you are now beginning to... you need to come up with a proper mechanism. It cannot be selective. Let us understand the markets. The people that need foreign exchange in the future will go to the future market. They don't need to buy now if they don't need it now. That is what we're saying. But to be honest with you, my main concern really is the fact that who is in charge and who is leading the coordination of the economy? Is it the economic management team? There's another committee which is now headed by the vice president. the Economic Stabilization Committee. Then we also have the Finance Minister, we also have the Central Bank, and we have the Minister of Trade and Investment, who is coordinating all these agencies and all these policies. If we can get our economic recovery growth plan restructured and we put in structural reforms, I believe this thing on the economic side cannot be as bad as it is. But as far as the pandemic is concerned, we have $7 billion on the table right now that we can use to solve that health crisis. So that is where my own comfort level comes from.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, in a minute or less now, I just want an outlook. The United States Q1 GDP on an annualized rate just showed a contraction of 4.8%. So the U.S., that recession is pretty much headed for where the U.S. is now. Bode, your outlook going forward for the country, and Tilewa, I'll throw the same question to you as well. In a minute or less, if you can both wrap up.
Well, I think we have to really, for Nigeria, you mean, not the U.S.
Yes, Nigeria, yes.
Okay. My other concern is we have to get the private sector-led recovery. Now, we're borrowing now from the domestic market. That's going to crowd out borrowings. That's going to crowd out activity that really should have gone to the private sector. Government needs to come down significantly. And in terms of size, in terms of structure, in terms of costs, and even in terms of economic activity, because productivity is low. So these are the all issues. I think everybody needs to get together and let's begin to rethink what is needed to move this country forward. But some good news we got. We heard Gilead Sciences that there was some positive data from their clinical trials and they actually had to stop trading their shares at pre-market trading in the US. If there is some breakthrough in these trials or in these vaccines, of course, it lends a positive aura to the whole situation.
Thank you for that, Bode Ososami, Rise Business Analyst. Tilewa Adebajo, CEO of CFG Advisory, please, your closing outlook as far as Nigeria is concerned.
Very short. The predictions right now are anywhere from between 2% to an 8% contraction. The numbers we get will depend on the action of our government and the direction.
Thank you so much for that brief comment, Mr. Tilewa Adebajo, CEO of CFG Advisory, and Bode Ososami, Rise Business Analyst in London. Thank you both so much for your take on the $3.4 billion loan that's been approved by the IMF to Nigeria. Thank you both very much.